Happy Monday, everyone. We are back here to our regularly scheduled program. I have convinced, let's put it that way, another widow to come to my house and have a conversation. And did we meet at the Walk of Love? Was that the first time?
That was the first time.
Okay, so this is Sherry Hall. She is here because I've asked her to come. And we had a conversation, and it was so good that I said, you have to come to my house. And God gave us a warm day to do this video. So this is not going to be a full blustery day like the last video was, where my trees are falling down in my porch, stuff's blowing, my hair's blowing crazy. But she has got some stories because you've been a widow for how many years?
This time, almost 4 years.
4 years. Okay, so she
For
has
the
been
last
widowed
time.
twice. And so that's, I have heard of that, but I don't know if I've gotten to interview a widow who has been widowed twice. So this is a lady who has been strong and figured some things out, and I want to have that conversation. But we met March 1st, as you know, I talked about this last week at, we had the Walk of Love gathering that was sold out, and Sherry was there, and I was so happy to have her there. And I'm calling all the widows and widowers that came just to thank them for coming, and that sparked a conversation. She's had some things kind of going on. She may or may not get into that, but I just need to introduce you to Sherry. And how would you like to start the conversation?
I guess saying you can make it.
You can make it. You can make it. I like that.
And be happy making it.
Thank you.
You can be happy making it.
That's good. That it may just be the title of today's message.
Okay, all right. I've had to make it twice and learn to be happy twice.
Wow.
But God brought me through it.
Excellent. And now, how old are you now?
I will be 77 this year in August.
I mean, the Lord has been good to her. I don't guess ages because I'm always wrong. But 77 is not what I would have said. So she's aging gracefully, as they like to say. Now, how old were you when you became a widow the first time?
59.
59, okay.
59.
And you were married how many years?
40 years going on 41.
Wow.
Planning a 40th year marriage all over again to renew our vows.
And did you make it to that?
No.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
He asked me in August in front of the whole church, and he passed in November.
Wow. So it was almost like he kind of proposed to you a little bit again in front of the church.
Yeah, he did.
Wow. That's beautiful. I mean, ending was.
I cried and cried, and nobody could understand why I was crying. But I was crying because I felt like I wanted to do it in August. And he didn't want to do it. Instead, he surprised by asking me to do it in August. But I felt like if we didn't do it in August, we would never get a chance to do it.
And you didn't.
And we didn't. And nobody, I could not explain why I was
grieving,
crying.
why you were
Right.
grieving.
I could not explain why I was crying. I was just upset. People didn't understand. And the only thing afterwards, I said, if we don't do it in August, we're not going to do it. And so then everybody sort of took a second look, you know.
Right.
And but it was rough.
Wow.
No woman or no wife wants to get the doorbell when it rings and there's a policeman at the door saying your husband has been in an accident. And you rushed throwing down, I was peeling turtles at that time. So I had a knife in my hand. I guess the policeman didn't know what I was going to do. I had a knife and a dish towel. So I threw the knife and dish towel down, running to get my coat and pocketbook so I can, you know, he didn't say where he was, and I'm saying, how is he, where is he at, and all that at the same time.
So he wasn't sick?
No, he had MS.
Okay.
And what happened, but he could get around with limited mobility, and he had a massive heart attack because MS attacks your muscles.
Right.
And it had attacked his heart muscle.
Wow.
And so he had a massive heart attack.
While driving. Wow.
And it was a terrible scene. But I had to go to the site.
Wow.
Because I needed closure. Nobody could understand,
Mm.
but I needed that closure
Wow.
to see where it was at, to see the condition of the car, and I just screamed until I just couldn't scream anymore. But I had to get it out. It was
Right.
inside, and if I had held all that inside, eventually it was going to take its toll.
Yes.
So I just had to look at everything for the last time and just scream and holler and pray and everything else, fall on my knees. And they said, well, do you need to call the rescue squad? No, my son told, just let her holler, just let her get it all out.
Wow.
And so that's what I did. I got it all out.
Wow.
And I don't know how long I hollered, but they just let me holler until I just couldn't holler anymore.
Wow.
And matter of fact, I drove my own self there, and I was able to drive myself back because once I saw everything, it like closed up everything.
Wow.
And so it was 3 months later before I could get to the coroner's office, because you have to make an appointment and then they will call you. But he said that if my husband had been in the hospital with the type of heart attack he had,
they
they still wouldn't have saved him. So that
gave you closure
gave me
too.
closure that he didn't just suffer, but he said what he said was actually, he explained everything, and he said actually in 2 seconds he was gone.
I think that's similar to what my husband had.
And so that helped me to know that even though he was at an accident scene, if he'd have been in hospital,
They still couldn't
they
have
couldn't
saved
save
him.
him.
Right. That's what they kind of told me as well, that it was the widowmaker, so it's kind of a heart aneurysm, which is a quick thing,
Yeah.
which isn't it's not painful per se, anyway. So it's a little windier than I was expecting here today, but we're pressing forward. So even though you let it all out that day, what were the days following like for you?
Well, there were moments when I sat down in his car and tears just started rolling. Sometimes I'd have a happy moment and I'd think about something that had went on, something funny, and I'd laugh, and that laughter would turn into tears. There were some days that there was days that were good days, and I had happiness all the time, and I thought about it, but not in that sense that it was gone. And I could make it through that day, but then again, what happened followed that was a sad
Not as
time.
good day.
So once I released the tears, it was like
felt
I'm
better.
good to go to the next one.
Okay, so the tears helped you move through.
Move through. And
Now, did you ever deal with, have you heard it said, or did you deal with, when you're talking about the joy days, I've heard people say they felt guilty to feel happy.
I guess I did a strange thing that people, I never heard nobody else do this, but I knew my husband was gone. I knew he was not there, but yet I still felt married in my mind because it was still fresh. So actually, and I knew he wouldn't talk back. I didn't expect a lightning bolt from heaven to come down or whatever, but I actually went to his grave and talked to him. And I know some people might think, what in the world, but it helped me to bring closure. And I just talked to him just like he was there.
Yep.
I asked him, why did you leave me? You didn't tell me goodbye, and I'm hurting. I don't know what to do, and I really just kind of just stayed there for a while because I wanted a response to what I was going through.
Right.
Now, I didn't hear his voice. I didn't hear anything audible. Like I hear with my ears.
Right.
But it was more like, and I can't say it was him. I would just say it was the Holy Spirit speaking to my spirit.
Heart. Yes.
And I felt like what was conveyed in that conversation, it was more than just a one-way conversation of me talking to him.
Yes.
He was talking back.
Excellent.
And what I felt was he was telling me that you are the stronger one and that you can make it.
Wow.
So go on with your life. I'm gone, but you can make it.
Wow.
You'll be okay. And that just blew me away. I think I sat there and cried for another hour there at the grave. Because it was a lady that she knew me. And
Yes.
she knew he had just recently passed away.
Yes.
And she kept riding around the cemetery.
Making sure you were okay.
It scared me because I didn't know her car. I
Right.
didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And she would slow down. And
I don't
she
like
would,
that
you know,
either.
But I finally, she saw me one day and she said, I saw you at the grave. She said, I kept going around the cemetery because I wanted to make sure you were okay. And all.
Yes.
But I felt like that brought closure.
Wow.
And there have been times that when I, just got frantic about something, I had to have something done. I didn't know how to get it done or who to call. And that just kept coming to me. You can make it.
Wow.
You can do this. You can do this. And it was just, little things that I
Yes.
never had to do before.
Yes.
And I learned it's okay if you don't know how to do them. You make a mistake the first time, you get it right the second time. Or maybe you'll find an easier way to do it. Cutting grass is one thing. Now, I love cutting grass.
We're going to get into that. I hope you can hear in her story that it's so fascinating to me and why I have to continue to interview these women and men. We're going to get some more men on here. But for whatever reason, the women are lasting longer, okay? And she's a 2-time survivor, okay? Do you hear this? And she's just talking about the first time. We haven't even gotten to the second time yet. But the scripture talks about the Holy Spirit being a divine encourager. And she may have gone there and whatever emotion she had, the creativity of what it takes, and she may not even call it creative. I went to the grave, okay? There may be others who did that. That was not my story. I don't feel like he's there, okay, to be honest. So for me, I could talk to him here versus talk to him there, whatever. And that's here. I'm just saying it's so individualized, our grieving process and the different closure points she had to have. There may be some that wouldn't have gone to the scene of the crime because those sites could be too traumatic and not sleep at night or things like that.
Yeah.
So again, it's not one size fits all. It's literally like thousands upon thousands of variations. And that's what makes me continue to want to interview because one, it's helping me hear. I get so excited to hear how God showed up in her story because I'm so convinced that the scripture is not just a storybook, that it is life, it's truth. And the scripture says that he's near to the brokenhearted. And here she was at the grave, brokenhearted, missing her husband, telling him her heart. You weren't potentially crying out to God in that.
Mm-mm.
You're having a conversation.
Right.
And the conversation was two ways. And that's the beautiful thing. And in my church, they say we're spirit beings living a human. Do you know the phrase? A human experience.
Yeah.
So it's like basically we're more spirit than this body can really convey. And
well, I knew he wasn't there.
right,
But
I know.
to be absent from the body is to be
Present with the Lord.
But I just needed
To
something.
go. Yes, it's a
to,
tangible place.
Something
Yes.
that I could hold on to.
Yes.
And because for 6 months, I walked around and I had a smile on my face and people thought, well, she's fine. She's moved on. But I wasn't fine. For 6 months, I felt like, and I didn't realize this until 6 months later. It was like one morning I woke up and it was like a bubble. Like my head had been in a bubble and somebody just popped the bubble. And it was just different. I could see things different. I was thinking differently. And
so the weight
it
of
helped me.
grief.
Right. It's not something that it's different with everybody.
Yes.
It's like what you talked about just then, we have a shoe.
Right.
But my shoe may not fit your foot, and
That's
your
right.
shoe may not fit. It's and when the shoe fits, you have to wear that shoe. in
That's
other words.
right.
And everybody's shoe is different.
Just like Cinderella, there was
yeah.
only one shoe.
Flat shoes, high
Right.
heel shoes.
So she
you
was
know.
kind of in a fog.
Yeah, I was in a fog and I didn't realize it. And I didn't hear anything, but it's almost like you can hear this bubble pop.
Mm.
And it's like everything opens up.
Mm.
I mean, even to things looking different, looking brighter.
Right. I
you
felt
know.
that.
And you realize then, you have to go on. You don't have a choice.
That's right.
But I think it's the way that you go on. Some people stay stuck.
Yes. Thank
and
you.
some people move on. You meet some people that'll tell you, don't cry. You gotta cry. You gotta get it out.
Yes,
If you
that's
don't,
right.
If you don't get it out,
It's
gonna
going
turn
in.
to physical.
Yes. Pain,
physical
sickness.
pain, disability.
That's what
or
happened to
whatever.
me. I didn't
Right.
cry a lot
It's-
in the beginning, and it started to be pain in my body.
And I kept saying, no, I'm crying.
Right.
I'm gonna cry. And excuse me. And the thing that really bothered me, and it was probably just me.
Mm.
This is my thing. When people would say, "You look so good," I'm thinking, "Well, God, how did I look first? Did I look bad?"
That's
You
right.
know, they
Right.
like, "You
That's
look-
not really a compliment.
You look
Right.
good. And then someone would say, "Considering what you've been through," and I'm thinking to myself, "Well, if I look good now,
What was I before?
what was I looking like
Yeah,
first?"
no.
And I know some people
They're
just,
expecting you to look ragged, worn down. I said, who wants to get worn down and look ragged?
No, they don't. They want you to go on. They want you to pick up yourself and move
Right.
on. But really, they're not expecting it.
Thank you.
They want you to. They know you. Well, I won't say they know you're stuck, but they know what you've been through. But
They're
sometimes
surprised when you go
and
on or something.
sometimes I think people just say things to be saying. They don't know what to say.
You're right.
And it comes out the wrong
way.
wrong
To
way,
us, the
wrong thing.
receiver.
Mhm, to receive, right.
Right. So they're trying to give her a compliment, but it doesn't receive to us as a compliment.
And I can understand them saying you look good.
Yes.
But they probably never thought in their mind that I'm thinking, well, how did I look first?
Right.
I must look terrible, considering, but
It's the wrong words.
It's the wrong,
It's
and
the wrong-
people don't
they don't
understand
know.
that. And so many people have a lot of problems being around someone that has lost someone
Yes.
because they don't know what to do, they don't know what to say. Do I bring you a drink? Do I fix you some food? Do I give you some money? Do I just clean your house? Do I just sit here and listen to you?
What would you say to those people?
Just to be a friend, and sometimes it's not in a matter of communicating. You can communicate just by sitting beside somebody and listening to them, because most of the time, I know this is me, most of the time you just need to get that out. You just need somebody to just, even if they don't say it, but a hug can mean it's gonna be okay.
You're right.
You can make it.
Nonverbal.
You want somebody. You're missing your
Person.
your other part,
Mhm.
and it's like you just want somebody to let you know, because you can't see 2 years down the road,
No.
but you want somebody just to tell you, you can make it. It's gonna be all right. You've got to rebuild confidence,
That's good.
and it's almost like rebuilding your life alone.
Yes.
And because it's things that after my husband passed, changing the oil to get the car, take the car to get the oil changed, mowing the grass,
Tell us more about this mowing the grass.
Well, mowing the grass is my stress reliever. I love mowing my grass. I'm an outside person. I love mowing. I have a 54-inch zero-turn lawnmower. So when I am on my lawnmower, it's like me cruising down Route 66. Nobody's on the highway but me. But I'm on the road, and not on the road. The yard is my road. I am in my yard, but I'm pretending
imagining.
to be on the highway, and nobody's in this lane but me. But what I've learned for myself, it's just stress. It's a stressful time, even in grieving. And so you have to find something that will make you happy. Well, cutting grass makes me happy. And Micah laughed about this, if I have something that's bothering me, it does not have to be a person. It can be a situation. I can mentally throw it in my yard and run over it with the lawnmower and cut it up. That's what relieves my stress. Now, I know y'all probably think, okay, she is really wild. But that's my stress reliever. I told her I probably have more dead people in my yard cut up a little bit, but I don't actually kill them.
I cackled so loud when she told me this. I said, I have never heard it said. I said, you have to tell this story.
But I love cutting grass. I'm on my lawnmower. I can't put a hat on because it blows off, so I just tie a scarf around my head, and it is on, and I can't, at my age, it's sort of hard for me to weed eat. So I've just found somebody that can help me in the yard that can weed eat, and he's going to weed eat while I cut the grass.
Excellent.
So, but by the time I can, I work a full-time job. So when I get home, sometimes I'm tired, I need to sit down. But all I have to do is start that lawnmower up.
And that energy.
And that energy kicks in. Whatever I've gone through that day or whatever I've got to handle, I can mentally stress relieve myself in the yard on that lawnmower.
I love it.
I am just as tickled. It's lawnmower season. The grass is growing. I'm so happy my grass is growing.
I mean, there's many
I'm getting ready to cut some grass.
That's it.
But that's my stress reliever. You can't hold that stress inside.
See, this is another tool, okay? So, again, one size doesn't fit all. And so I knew I had to try cutting the grass, but I had cut the grass in younger years. So it wasn't something I hadn't done before. I do not feel that sensation when I cut the grass. And so that's fascinating. But hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, you have to find what works for you.
And everybody's different.
And there is an outlet, and I would say multiple outlets. Now, she told me she works at the Food Line, and
I decorate cakes.
Is that an outlet?
That's an outlet. I will stay there all day and all night. I just love to see when I create
the finished product.
I like it because I'm taking a plain cake with nothing on it. Take it out the cellophane, and because all cakes come in individually wrapped.
Okay.
I take it out the cellophane, and what am I going to do? Make this beautiful. And that's what I can work with, all colors and everything, and I love it.
And what are cakes for? Celebrations. And so you get to be a part of all these.
I go to everybody's party without being there.
That is so awesome. I mean, do you just see that? And were you doing this?
No.
Before?
I've only been there like 5 years.
Okay.
Well, it'll be 5 years in June.
Okay. All right. So we're kind of going back. We're going forward. I want to get back to how long was it that you were single before your second husband came?
See, 4 or 5 years, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4, about 4.5 years.
And you said earlier that you still felt like you were married for a time.
But that had passed by then.
Yes, and the bubble popped, and so things kind of started to adjust.
Right.
What were you doing for work then?
I was pastoring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was pastoring. And, but I was getting a little older, and it's time for, bring some younger person in with refreshing word, and not that mine wasn't refreshing, but people don't want to hear older people, well, and sometimes they do, most times they don't, and so I stopped pastoring, and one day my daughter called me. She said, you think you want a job? And I'm like, no. So I told her, well, let me think about it. I said, well, what is it? She said, well, they need a cake decorator at the store on Food Line in Franklin. So I said, well, let me think about it. And actually, I forgot about it. A month went by, and she called me back. She said, have you thought about it? And then I told her, I said, oh, yeah, I'll do it. Then I got off the phone, oh, God, what did I do? And
but it's been good.
It's been real good.
Real good.
I love it.
So, again, that fell into your lap. And your daughter kind of re-entered the conversation again, so you really didn't pursue it. But something got in her heart,
to ask me.
To ask you. Now, what brought your second husband into the storyline?
Well, we knew each other. Both our spouses had passed, and he just called me up one day and asked me how would I like to go out for coffee. I said yeah, and then I forgot off the phone. I said, Lord, I don't even drink coffee. So, so he called, and so we went out. Matter of fact, we went out to Starbucks, and he had coffee, and I had frappuccino, and that was the beginning of that.
Awesome. And then you were married how long?
We were 1 week short of 10 years.
Okay. And his was an illness or not?
He had colon cancer.
Okay.
And so when they found it, they gave him like 2 years, even with the chemo. And so he just passed. Let me see. He lived 2 years and 4 months.
Okay.
Before he passed.
Now, that experience is obviously different because there was somewhat of a timeline given, and you're dealing with someone walking through illness. What can you say to the widow on the other side of that?
Well, both of my husbands, the first one was with MS,
Yes.
and the second one had colon cancer. So I've taken care of two husbands that actually passed away. And, you know, people say, well, some people have asked me, not a lot. Well, especially with the second husband, he was sick, and why you did this, leave him. But vows to me are important. I didn't just take vows to somebody, so everybody listening can go, I made that vow to God, and for better or for worse. And this was the worst part of the marriage. So, but it wasn't all bad.
Right.
So you just have to, weigh it out and see how you feel. Some people may have said, because I have had some people to tell me, well, I don't think I could have did it, but I would not. I look at things the way I feel about it. I would not want someone or my spouse to leave me when I got sick.
Right.
Take care of me. Do the best you can.
Yes. Yeah.
Get the help that I need.
Right.
And I think that was the way I felt. That stay there till the end.
That's right.
Both husbands were saved, so like I said, to be absent from the body,
That's
to be
right.
present with the Lord.
Now, was that experience after different, harder? Like, how did you walk through grief a second time?
That one was easier. It was still a grieving process, but it was not as
Deep,
hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it was because I was older,
Right.
Or what, but it's just certain things that I felt like I learned from the first husband as far as grieving. You know what you got to do.
Right.
You got to do this, and I was older, and it had two sides. One side was that I was older and I was more experienced in what I had to do. The other side was I was older and some things I couldn't do now.
Right.
Like when I was 50, some of my first husband passed, I could jump up on the step ladder in the house and change the light bulb.
Right.
Now I got to get my granddaughter to stand there because I don't want to fall off the step ladder and break a bone.
Right. Right.
So it's things that that you can't do and that you can do, and you sort of weigh it out and you say, okay, I can't do this. Mine right now, I've just found somebody to weed eat. I still gonna cut my grass because I gotta have I gotta have
her
my stress
outlet.
reliever. I gotta have my outlet, my stress reliever. But I have somebody that's gonna weed eat while I cut the grass.
Yes. Right.
And you will learn what your stress reliever. When I first got on the lawnmower and me, I had to talk to that lawnmower because I was pure scared of that lawnmower. That thing was too big. And the first time I cut the grass, I probably went like 2 miles an hour. It took me all day to cut the grass. I mean, all day from that morning to that night. But now it's like that's been some years.
She's zipping around, and that's your turn.
That's a few years ago and 2 lawnmowers ago. I've worn out one, and
That's good.
But now I can do it like in an hour and 15 minutes.
Awesome.
And but you learn. But you still have to find that stress relief.
Right.
Something that can bring that balance to when I say bring a balance, because you're gonna have those days you're
Yes.
gonna cry. You're gonna have those days you're gonna question everything.
Right.
But you're gonna have to have something that's gonna bring you back over to where you need to go.
Right.
To keep moving forward.
Right, and I would say I use kind of driving terms, and she's saying that she's not saying that exactly, but it's like there's certain situations that bump you off the road,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like detour, and then you've got to get yourself back on track.
On track.
And you know, we say this term that sin is missing the mark. You know, and I'm not talking about sin here, but I'm just saying it's another term about we're trying to go this way. Life bumps us off the road. And then there's choices that we have to make, and some people call it we got to dig deep. You know, we got to dig deep. And you know, sometimes you don't even know how deep
It is.
or how deep you're going to have to dig.
Yeah.
And
I call it hitting a pothole.
mm,
Sometimes you hit a pothole, and I've seen, movies where they don't call them potholes. I think one movie I saw, I don't even know what name it was, they call them bathtub holes. That's how hole the big one.
Right, how big the hole was.
Right. So, you don't want to stay in that pothole.
no.
Because just like you hit the pothole wrong in your car, you knock the front end out, and you can do some damage.
That's
the
right.
Same way with your body. If you stay in that pothole, you can go into depression, and that'll take you longer. Now you got to get rid of the depression.
Right.
So you can start working. You can't work on
degree.
yourself until you
That's right.
agree. So you compounding the problem.
Right. Now, how did you walk through any of that? Or if you didn't walk through depression, do you believe that's from your faith? I mean,
I didn't have depression.
right.
I didn't. I would say it because I found out when I went to my husband's cardiologist. I went to pay a bill, and I found out that he had previously had a heart attack, but he had not told me. So, and it was a major heart attack.
Wow.
Because he had. I remember one day I left home. He sent me something to get something. And I came back. He was in the bed. He said, "Well, my chest was not feeling good," so I called the doctor. Well, this particular day, he had actually had a heart attack, but he went to see his doctor, and she sent him to a cardiologist, and they took an X-ray, and it all came back. Everything sort of the puzzle went together after he passed. He had an X-ray, and it had black spots on it where his heart was, and I was saying, well, what does that mean? You just don't have a black spot on an X-ray. And he said, well, it'll be all right. The doctor's sending me this one, and he wouldn't tell me. But actually what that was, and the nurse explained to me after he had passed away, like I said, when I went to pay the bill, she explained to me that he had a previous heart attack, and that the black spots on the X-ray were the heart muscles that had been damaged where they couldn't fix.
Wow.
So it was just a matter of time before he passed.
Wow.
So I had to deal with that.
Wow.
And that took
Set
me
you
back
back a little
set
bit.
me back a minute.
Yeah, I'd be ticked off, to be honest.
But I came to the conclusion that it was love for me that he didn't tell me. Because
okay.
see, I'm the kind of person that if I know something is wrong with you, I'm gonna baby you. I'm not gonna want to leave your sight. And he didn't want that. So
he was protecting you.
He was protecting me. And it took me a few days to figure that out. Because first I got mad with him.
Yeah.
Because
for
I'm
sure.
like, well, why didn't you tell me this?
Right.
You doing this and you doing that, and you shouldn't have been doing this. And,
right.
And I mean, he's gone, and I am just fussing at him.
Right.
But that anger is one of the stages that you go through.
Yes, it is.
And I just fussed until I couldn't fuss no more. I was arguing, and it was like I think I was arguing so fast. I wasn't even waiting on him to say anything. I knew he wasn't going to say nothing, but I just had to get it all out. I'm just mad at you, man, because you didn't tell me this, and on top of that, now you turn around, you done left me, and da da da. I just went on and on and on. But you got to get it out.
Yes.
And so after I got it all out and sat down, and I said, this man must have really loved me. Because he that's a lot for one person to hold on when when the doctor's giving you a diagnosis that it's nothing that we can do for you.
Right.
It's just you
Matter
got half of your heart not working.
Wow.
So I try to look at it from his standpoint of view, and how he protected me in not telling me.
Wow.
So that brought a whole different perspective.
I mean, this is wisdom, folks. This is the seasoned wisdom, because when she's talking about the depression setting you back and compounding things, okay, she had plenty of reasons to stay angry, close her heart off to God, to be honest. Not that he did anything, but that's what we do. And I know with myself, when things get hard or I feel more pain, I don't want to connect with you. I want to disconnect. So how did you not disconnect from the Father while you were walking through some of these more emotional times?
I found myself one day in the house in a rocking chair, and I was just, I don't know what I was doing, maybe just probably venting off, and I found myself talking to God, and I actually just was just honest. I just said, Lord, you know, I said, I feel like I got a mess here. Right. You know, I don't know what to do. I don't know, you know, and I know I'm a pretty strong person, but Lord, you know, it's just got to the point that's just me and you. Right. And God, you got to help me through this. Yeah. Because if you don't help me through this, I'm not going to make it. Right. I remember saying that, and Lord, you know, I need your help. And for a while I would get up and say, okay, Lord, I still say it, but not as much now. In the earlier, it was probably like 3 or 4 times a day. Okay, Lord, I need your help now. Okay, Lord, I need your help now. Lord, where are you at? You know, you need to come on through here and give me some wisdom. You know, help me here. I still do that, yes, but not as much as I did in the earlier days. You know?
And what did you feel like he brought to you in those moments?
Peace. I can actually say peace. And if I had to learn to calm down, because I'm, you know, just like when I get on my lawnmower, I'm wide open. I'm wide open at work doing cakes. I'm wide open. I just got plenty of energy. They call me the Energizer Bunny. So I had to learn. It was a process of learning to slow down and get calm. And calmness would bring peace. But it was only then that I could hear the Lord speak back to me. Because I was trying to do all the talking. All right, Lord, don't you hear me what I'm saying? Lord, I got a problem over here. Are you all right? You know, talk to me. You know, say something. I was one word after the other. But then I had to learn to calm down. Because once I calmed down,
you could hear.
I could hear, and actually, it was more of me being wide open. The situation was not as bad as I thought it was. And
as her wide open response made the situation bigger. And once she got herself back calm.
Together. Back together, calm down. I couldn't hear anything.
Right.
I was just, I think if I had a stick, I could just beat constantly.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But I had to learn to calm down so I could hear something.
I want to pause right here with this. And so I'm learning about the science behind some of this, and that's the journey the Lord has me on. And so I'm going to bring in some science terms, meaning our nerves. Okay, so there's a book, and I haven't even read it, but I bought it, and it's called The Grieving Brain. So there's literally a physiological thing that happens to our brain. If you had an MRI done to a widow in the beginnings of their grief, you will see it on their brain scan. Things going on that are different. And so there's cognitive things that are physiologically happening. And so I continue to tell widows and widowers when I go and speak in bigger groups, if you have thought to yourself, you're getting dementia, you're not. And this brain fog will wear off, and some of this cognitive, sharper thinking will come back. You don't know when, you don't know if ever, because it's all coming down at one time. But also, when you go through high levels of stress, or loss is the highest on the Richter scale of stress, then divorce, then moving. So those are the three level, I don't know what they call it, meters of stress, the hierarchy of stress. Loss of a loved one is the highest. Your nervous system, your body goes into a fight or flight, which is your survival mode. You go into survival. And survival is not a calm state. It is a stressed state.
You fight for your life.
You're fighting for your life. That's why it's called fight or flight. Now, I was more of a fight, some flight. That means they just shut down. You know, they can't even be in the situation. But all that to say, we have to regulate your nervous system. And a nervous system is basically the panicked part of ourselves. We have to get back to a place of calm. And you say, well, how can you do that? She's given a lot of examples today of how to regulate it. And I can say for myself, I'm also more of a hyper personality. And the term that people have said to me as I've gone to some different counseling type things is you need to get more gentle. You've got to be gentle with yourself. So the Micah that's the doer, the take charge girl, she's got to sit down and she's got to allow herself to feel. And a term they use is self-compassion. So I have to have compassion for the situation and stop trying to understand all the time and allow myself to feel. And when I allow myself to feel, those thoughts of clarity come. Mm-hmm. And those are still happening for me today. I mean, I'm still, even 8 years in, feeling at a loss for an answer. Going into my story is getting into levels that I've never walked before.
I know actually when my first husband passed, like I said, the first and the second one was different.
Yes.
But when he passed, and you're saying grieving, my heart, my chest was physically sore. It wore off.
Yes.
You know, but that's how bad I was hurt.
Right.
You know, when people say heartbroken, and
yes, I
was physically
wounded.
Well, yeah, sore. I felt like I had really been wounded for real. I was, my chest, I had pain. So
yes.
Not like having a heart attack.
Right.
But it was actually
emotional pain.
Painful to even breathe.
Yes.
And it went away.
And I was the same. I was shallow breathing for months and months. So it was like I couldn't breathe deep. Mm-hmm. And it felt a lot of weight right here. And I've been to funerals and I never heard one person say this. And that just got me curious about, we need to share more about what's happening to each other so that when it happens to you, you don't freak out or think
you're going crazy.
Yes, and that is really a big concern.
I know my first husband, he lost his brother. And he was trying to be strong for everybody. And his brother had been gone 6 months. He drowned him. And we were on James River Bridge, coming back from something. We were coming back to Franklin. And he was driving, and we had to stop. That's when the grief hit him while he was driving. And we almost had a wreck.
From that water.
Yeah, we almost had a wreck.
Yeah.
But it took him 6 months to get to that point where he could release it.
Yeah.
And he just lost it while he was driving.
Wow. And that's not real. That's scary because that's a safety hazard. You know, and that is the scary thing about grief, is that it has to come out, but you don't know when it's going to come out. And if you're not comfortable with these heavy emotions, it's overwhelming. It can be embarrassing. Mm-hmm. I know people who've told me they needed a hug, but they really didn't want you to come and hug them because they knew they were going to start crying and they didn't know if they would stop.
Yeah, they don't want to cry.
They don't want to cry. They need to cry. They don't want to cry. And all of this is part of this whole thing. And she mentioned it earlier that people don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm. They want to say they hurt for you.
Yes.
But they trying to say something. I think they feel like you need to hear something.
positive,
but sometimes you just need to
nothing.
just don't say anything. And they know you're there for them.
Yes.
And they just need to listen sometimes because they just want to vent.
Right. And that's a majority of it. For whatever reason, let's just say our husband was our venting person, okay? We can say we talked our decisions out together. You went through problems together. You're gossiping to each other about stuff, whatever you want to call it. But you had that person to get that energy, all that you need to get out to. You had a face attached to it. And now you don't have a face attached to it, and that means you got to face it. And I can tell you for myself, when I'm not doing good and I look at my face in the mirror, I don't like what I see. To face it feels pretty ugly.
It's hard.
So as we finish up here, she has so many more stories than this. I just know it. What do you want to finish up to encourage the listener? You really started with it, and that's beautiful too. One, she continues to learn how to do things. She has found jobs. She has found outlets that has brought her joy back. Continues to give her joy. How do you want to finish this conversation? How has your relationship with the Lord deepened, obviously, but what do you want to encourage the listener with as we finish up here this morning?
I think if I had anything to encourage the widowers, it would be that you can make it.
Yes.
You're going to have to learn to make it. It's not a time limit on when.
Yeah.
There's no end to this road.
Right.
It just keeps going on and gets longer and it gets longer. But the potholes and the bumps
get smaller.
They get a little smaller.
Yeah, that's good.
And you will be able to make it.
Yes.
You know, things that you didn't think you could ever do, you'll do them.
That's it.
You'll either learn to do them or have somebody else help you.
That's right.
But you know, I just looked at different outlets.
Yes.
I started to cook food, like new foods.
Yes.
I started new crafts, you know.
Yes.
And actually I started blessing other people with things.
Thank you.
And that made me happy.
Yes.
I think one year I did a angel tree.
Awesome.
Where they have. I think I spent about $300 on this child. I never met this child, but I felt like this child's gonna have a happy Christmas.
That's it.
You know, and I take food to the elderly sometimes.
Yes.
That makes me happy.
Yes.
It's not like I'm sitting at home
pouting
and pouting, or either in the chair looking at the sky saying I'm bored.
Right.
You know,
she's got something to give. Sherry's got something to give. Okay.
I don't even know what bored is.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't allow herself to be bored. We don't need to be bored. She's about her Father's business right now, and that is how So you're visualizing people on the lawnmower. I'm visualizing an army of widow warriors and widowers. That these people, they are on the front lines of life. Okay, they're having to face life head on, and they got to get their head straight because it gets real wobbly on some of those roads that she's talking about. And guess what? Not all of us have that four-wheel drive vehicle that can do off-road stuff. You know what I'm saying? If you're driving a Cadillac, it doesn't want to go on those bumpy roads. You need one of them big trucks with those big tires to go on those roads. I don't have a big truck with the big tires, so those roads that we get on are scary. And they bring panic to us. And yet, she can say she's a long-distance driver. She is a long-distance driver. She has sustained herself and remained through 2 losses. And she's still got joy and a pep in her step, I like to say. I like to say that pep in her step. Well, that's the joy of the Lord. I mean, He's the one who gives the strength. Joy gives strength.
Yeah, I think when I realized that, when I told God, okay, Lord, it's just me and you. You got to help me. That helped me to push you. That helped me to push out anybody that I thought that was there for the wrong reason, because you will run into those people.
Thank you.
You run into people that want to take advantage of you. That helped me to just put my focus on the Lord,
Him,
on the Lord, and that's what you're gonna need to get through.
Yes.
You know, some people, some people drink.
Yes.
Some people eat.
Yeah.
You know,
or don't eat enough.
Don't eat enough. Don't take care of themselves. They just, some people just they want to leave the house exactly the way it is.
Yes.
But that'll change too.
Right.
You know. But then if it doesn't change, you just go with it and work it out until you can change it.
That's right. That's right. And I've heard that as well.
Some people don't want to give the person's clothes
away. Nope. That's right.
When I was able, my first husband, I ended up, my goddaughter was working for the Community Service Board in Newport News. So they dealt with a lot of homeless people. So I got in touch with her and asked her if, because he had a lot of jogging suits and things like that, if I could bring them or send them in, and they would give them out to the homeless people. I found a church that his suits and everything.
Yes.
I found a church that had men, and I sent the church. I sent all his suits and Sunday items, what we would call Sunday go to meet clothes. I sent all those to a church.
I mean, do you see this? She's giving purpose to things that
would ordinarily just be in the closet.
Just be sitting there, or you could pack them away and put them in an attic that are just going to go bad over time, or whatever. But for me, I gave. He was the same size as his dad and his brother and his nephew, so they got to kind of pick through his things, and they wore some of his clothes because them wearing his clothes made them feel close to him.
Brought closure too.
Yes, so part of them, a piece of him. They felt like they had a piece of him. So multiple people took that, and then he, in his spare time, would paint, and he would help paint walls and and he would paint here, but he'd paint other places, and he had paint clothes. That you kind of wear the same stuff so you can wipe your paint on them. And I didn't really want to throw all that out. So one of the ladies in our church, she was a quilter. And she turned like his junky clothes into quilts.
Memory quilt.
Yes. And both kids got one, and I got one. And that was another way that we repurposed his clothes and took things that you would say, well, these are all trashy. But those were kind of the ones he wore the most. You know what I'm saying? So those were the way it happened. I've heard other people do quilts and things. You can send that off to companies, and they'll put it together for you where you don't cut it up yourself, and they'll ship it to you. So there's many different ways to bring closure and to repurpose things. But I'm glad, and I think that's a great way to end this, that when you get that life back in you, and it takes a little bit of time, that is here what the Widow Walk we're all about. New start, because you have a new finish, and with that, giving back and helping your fellow man, whether they're a widow or not, puts life back in you. I mean, is that, can you say any more about that?
That's where I got my happiness from. Of just to see the smile that people, sometimes they get so excited. I have had people call me up and say, oh, I just want to thank you. I don't remember if I said it. But my joy comes in seeing a smile on somebody else's face.
Yes.
If sometimes children involved, and you give them a lollipop. I would do that. But I think the biggest thing is you just have to, and you may not know it in a sense of knowing it in the beginning, but somewhere along the way you've got to realize before you know it that you can make it.
You can make it. That's it.
Because you don't, and it takes a little while to sometimes to get that message that up here that you can, and down here that you can make it.
That's right.
But once you get that process and go through those processes, those steps, I'll just say it'll kick in.
That's
there's no time limit.
No time limit.
No time limit. It's at your pace.
That's right.
But there is the road just longer and longer. Like I said, there's no deep. What is it? Do not enter signs at the road.
Right.
Everything's straightforward, and you can make it.
You can make
You
it.
can make
That's
it.
it.
And
So
that's what I've learned. No day is gonna be the same.
right.
But you can make it.
You're, as she said it early on, you're building a new life, and there's a confidence that I really believe that the Father desires, and He believes in us. He believes in us. Do you
Yeah.
think the Father believes in us?
Yeah.
And actually, I believe He can give us vision for a future that we didn't have,
I didn't know you had.
didn't know we had. That's a better way of
Yeah.
saying it.
You know.
We
but-
didn't know it. We didn't see it. And I had to call on the Father too, because I saw my future with my husband.
Mhm.
You know, I could play that out. We're raising these kids, just the
Yeah.
facts of the normal process of life, if you want to call it. But then when that chapter closed,
Yeah.
I didn't see the future anymore. Do you know what I mean by that?
For a while in the beginning, I didn't see anything.
Right.
I just could not. I didn't see where I was at. I didn't see future. I didn't see down the road 5
Right.
steps. I didn't see anything for a while. I was just in a state of shock.
Right.
But after a while, I kind of began. Like I said, it took a while.
Right.
As the pain went away, the actual physical pain, I could start to seeing things.
That's good.
And then one day that bubble, it's like that bubble just popped.
Right. Amazing.
And I don't guess people knew I actually felt like I was in a bubble. My head felt like it was just in a bubble. And
Right.
just everything just cleared right up.
Like you're underwater.
Yeah. But you can make it.
You can make it. That's it.
Age doesn't have anything to do with it.
Thank you.
But you can make it. You, like you said, survival mode, you're fighting for your life.
Yes.
And you can make it. It might be a little rough, but
Yes.
if you need oxygen, God's got some oxygen for
Thank
you.
you.
If you need blood, He's got some blood
That's
for you.
it.
If you need some wisdom, He's got some wisdom for you. But you can make it.
Yes. Well, look, I mean, here we are 56 minutes in. I knew it was going to be a good story. I knew the conversations were not just going to encourage me, but it's an honor to hear the story. Thank you for coming onto my couch here on her one day off to share this, and we are going to continue these conversations. We're going to let this truck go by. Actually, it was a school bus. So we thank you for listening. If you made it all the way through, please comment below and let us know, what did you like about Sherry's story, because I think there's multiple things here that are comment worthy, and hashtag you can make it too, because we need that attagirl to say, for fellow widows, and to say, like, we see you, we get it, and we believe that you're gonna make it too.
You're going to make it.
So see you next time. Bye.